Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special session on kickstarting your career in FP&A. So here we are going to talk all about FP&A. How can you pivot into an FP&A career? Why is it important? And why is it important now? Right? All of these things, all of these questions that are running in your mind, we will try and answer them as much as possible. So the overall webinar will be for about 45 to 50 minutes, half an hour presentation, and maybe we'll follow it up with a 10-15 minute Q&A. So please stay with us in this next 30 minutes. I'm sure many of your questions will get answered. So stay with us. Let us complete our presentation, and then we'll be happy to take any questions that you might have in the end as well. Great. So first of all, thank you for your trust. In this age of overloading of webinars, you have taken out your valuable 60 minutes to spend time with us. So thank you for your trust, and pat yourselves on the back for taking action. Many people want to pivot in their finance careers. They want to grow in their finance careers. They want to work in FP&A, but they're not ready to take action. The very fact that you have decided to spend your next 60 minutes with us shows that you are ready to take action, and pat yourselves on the back for taking that action. So a quick poll: on a scale of 1 to 10, today, as of now, how do you rate yourself in a day on a scale of 1 to 10? Just type your response in the chat box. Don't overthink this. Just type your responses in the chat box, whatever comes to your mind: 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 6, 7, whatever, right? So I need some quick responses in the chat box. Come on. Show me that you are awake. Must have been a tiring day for all of you. Okay, 4 of 10, 2 of 10, 4 of 10, 2 of 10. Okay, 4 of 10. I request you to mute if you are not speaking, so that there's no background noise. Thank you for that. 4 of 10, 4 of 10, 4. Okay, so right. So most of you are somewhere, I would say, between 2 to 5. That's great. So I'm sure if I am doing that job of getting you from a 4 to at least a 6 by the end of this webinar, or let's say a 5 by the end of this webinar, that I think is a 60-minute spent well. So let's try and understand today's roadmap. So in the next 45 minutes or so, we'll try and cover what is FP&A, how is it different from your accounting role, and why is it gaining so much of importance today. Then how does a typical FP&A month look like? What are some of the activities carried out in the FP&A function? Because typically, when we think about FP&A, we think only about budgeting and forecasting, right? But that's not true. There are plenty of things within the FP&A umbrella. Then I'll give you a quick framework, which will be like an FP&A framework, which you can, think about and plan accordingly to if you really are serious about FP&A career. And then in the end, we'll also talk about FP&A certifications. What are the certifications? Where are they available? And how you can equip yourself with those certifications as well. Cool. So my name is Dhawal Parvatikar. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I've also completed my 1-year management program from IIM Ahmedabad. Over the last 16 years, I've worked as a CFO and a finance leader across various multinationals in India and in the Middle East. I'm now the co-founder of FP&A Professionals Institute. I've mentored thousands of chartered accountants and finance professionals. Over the last 5 years, I've been an active online trainer, must have done more than 5,000 hours of online training, must have trained more than 6,000 professionals on various topics like FP&A, business partnering, CFO coaching, financial data storytelling, and much more. So that's a little bit about me. Over the last 12 to 18 months, I've also had the privilege of being part of more than 10 CFO events. Okay, somewhere I have gone in as a host, somewhere I've gone in as a moderator, somewhere I've been a panelist. So I have had this opportunity to kind of build a community of 200 plus CFOs from scratch in the Middle East. So that is what I have done over the last 12 to 18 months. I'm happy to have my partner Asif here. I'll let Asif introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dhawal. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I'll just quickly talk about what I've been doing over the last decade or so in finance and FP&A. So my experience has been in finance and FP&A across working with organizations like Citi, Pfizer, and most recently I was the FP&A lead for India at a company called Coursera. And after that, somewhere in the middle of 2023, we decided to make our passion, which is training and coaching, full time. So that's when we started FP&A Professional Institute back in 2023. And I've been working as a part of the institute right from creating, as someone said, YouTube videos, doing podcasts, writing books on sharing my experience as an FP&A. And not just my experience, I've had the opportunity to meet some of the top FP&A experts across the globe, right from North America to Europe to Middle East. And what we try to do at FP&A Professional Institute is try to bring in all that experience and all that knowledge across to you through our books, YouTube channel, podcasts, webinars like these. So that has been our mission for the last, and we've been doing that consistently for the last 2 years, almost every week, we've been doing a webinar. Quickly about FP&A Professional Institute. So, as I mentioned, we were doing this part time until 2022. In 2022, I published my first FP&A book, which is all about FP&A, which is one of the best sellers in that particular category. And that's when me and Dhawal came together and started our very first cohort of FP&A Masterclass, which is a 4 week program. And we started with 25 students in September 2022. And as of today, we've trained more than 1,000 students in Masterclass. And right now, we will be doing our 19th cohort of FP&A Masterclass in June. Also, we have launched our 6 month in-depth certification last year, and that has also completed 3 cohorts successfully. The fourth cohort is in progress, and that is something which we will talk about in some detail maybe at the end of the webinar today. So that is a little bit about FPA Professional Institute. We have trained more than probably 3,500 students across all of these courses that you see on the screen in the past 4 years. So I'm looking forward to more interaction with you guys, and I'll pass it back to Dhawal, and I'll be here and come back in between the webinar.
So that's a little bit about the institute. Why bother learning FP&A? So, why is FP&A gaining so much of importance today, right? So there are 2 to 3 points that I would like to share here. One is that we did our own CFO survey, and 79% of the CFOs said that it is generally difficult to find the right FP&A talent, which means everybody wants experienced FP&A professionals, but there are not enough FP&A professionals out there, right? So that is one part. The other thing is that if you look at any of the top salary surveys or any of the top recruitment agencies and their salary surveys, you can notice a pattern that FP&A roles command more than at least 15 to 30% more salary than regular finance and accounting roles. So that's why there's a huge demand for FP&A at this point in time. And anything that you do in FP&A will definitely get attention on your resume, and you're likely to get that call for an FP&A role as well. Here is another report why you should definitely consider FP&A as a serious step towards your career. Here is a World Economic Forum report which says that accounting is actually one of the top 10 fastest declining jobs in the world. Okay, so which means that more and more automation is coming in rule-based stuff, which is accounting, audit, taxes, whichever is rule-based. More automation will come and hit faster in those kind of functions. So what will remain at the end of it is business partnering, data storytelling, how you can partner with the businesses with your business acumen, your ability to build strong cross-function relationships. Those softer skill sets will become more prominent in the coming days. How is FP&A different? While there are dozens of functions in a CFO's office, right? Somebody needs to keep an eye on the performance of the business. How is the business performing? What are our gross margins? What is our pricing? What is the impact of increasing prices by 5% on our net profit? What is our budget? What is our forecast? How much spend are we going to do on marketing? What is the marketing ROAS, right? Return on ad spends. All of these things are part of the performance of the business. Somebody needs to keep an eye on the performance of the business. That is where FP&A comes into play. Let's say that, okay, here's a team that keeps an eye on the performance of the business. And the main role of FP&A is to provide timely and accurate insights to the CFO and other senior business leaders in the company so that they can take informed financial decisions. So that's why FP&A enjoys this unique position of sitting very close to the CFO's office and helping the CFO manage the performance of the business. Now, that brings us to the question as to what is FP&A? Why is there so much hype about FP&A at this point in time? So many people have this misconception that FP&A is all about budgeting and forecasting, right? But can you do budgeting throughout the year? Can you do forecasting throughout the year? That's not the case. So FP&A broadly has 2 elements. One is financial planning. The other one is financial analysis. Financial planning is a future-looking part of it, where we are talking about business plan, budgets, forecast, rolling forecast, Q1 forecast, short-term forecast, medium-term forecast, long-range planning. All of these things come as a future-looking function of FP&A. And then there is financial analysis, which is all about analyzing the ongoing performance of the business, where we are talking about activities like variance analysis, management commentaries, decision support, scenario planning, modeling. All of these things are about analyzing the ongoing performance of the business. So that is where financial analysis comes into play. Okay? Again, there are dozens of activities within the larger FP&A umbrella, which all can be grouped into 3 broad buckets. One is budgeting, forecasting, and management reporting. Budgeting is all about your financial plan for the upcoming year. At the end of every financial year, most of the finance and accounting teams, you will see they get busy with preparing the budget for the next financial year. Let's say if you're following a calendar financial year, then by October to December, you will start preparing the budgets for the next financial year. Okay, your revenue, your cost of goods sold, your operating expenses, and your margins as well. The end outcome of the budget looks pretty much like a P&L statement where you have your estimated revenue, your different set of costs, and your estimated operating profit. Now then comes forecast. Forecast is analyzing ongoing performance of the business. Either companies do a monthly forecast or a quarterly forecast depending on what the cycle is. For example, let's say if calendar year is a financial year and 3 months of actuals have already happened. Let's say Jan to March actual months have already gone. Then what you prepare is a 3+9 forecast. 3 months of actuals, 9 months of forecast. Many companies call it a 3+9 forecast. Many companies call it Q1 plus Q1 forecast, which is actually Q1 of actuals and then other 3 quarters of estimates, right? So depending on how your company is structured and the complexity of the business, you will start looking at forecast either on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. And then comes management commentaries. Like I told you, FP&A supports business teams and various business leaders in the company so that they can take informed financial decisions. So that is where management commentaries and reports come into play, where to execute this management commentary, you will end up doing a lot of variance analysis, comparisons like actual versus budget, actual versus forecast, current month versus previous month, current quarter versus previous quarter, current year to date versus last year to date, all of these different kind of comparisons, understand the variances and the business reasons behind these variances, and then provide them in your management reports. And then comes profitability analysis. Every company is structured in a different way. Some companies structured as branches, some companies structured as regions, some companies structured as business units, right? You prepare different levels of profitability. Business unit profitability, branch profitability, product profitability, regional profitability. Depending on how your company is structured, you provide these different profitability analysis to manage the performance of these various subcomponents in the business. So that is what is profitability analysis. Now again, there are dozens of smaller activities which are under the umbrella, but these are some of the 3 or 4 core activities that you can find in any company, any shape and size of the company, and in the FP&A function that you can think about. Now, what are some of the key traits required to be a successful FP&A professional? Again, there could be dozens of traits that are required for you to be successful at FP&A, but I'm going to just capture 4 core traits or 4 core factors that will make you successful FP&A professional, just in the interest of time. Okay. One is business acumen. Business acumen is your ability to think beyond numbers, think like a businessman. Okay, I'll give you a case study. So what happened in one of my roles, I was working with a large advertising company, and in one of my roles, we were pitching to a large client, which was Facebook, for their advertising mandate in India. Okay, and I noticed that the gross margins on this client was particularly lower than what we would charge to other clients. Right, we were charging somewhere around 5% to 6% of net margins compared to the other clients where we were charging about 15 to 20%. So I went back to the business head and said that, hey boss, I don't think so we should take the Facebook mandate because we're charging lower on this and we won't be able to make any more profits or higher profits than like how we are making on other clients. The business unit head smiled at me and said that you are thinking like an accountant, right? You're not thinking like a businessman. Do you know, just by having Facebook as our client, how many doors it will open us with all other technology companies? If we go and tell a client that Facebook is our client, that will immediately make such a great impression that there'll be 10 other technology clients who will line up in our door for becoming our client. Now, this is how a businessman is thinking, right? This is how you zoom out yourself out of your accounting role and think like a businessman. Second is analytical skills. Analytical skills is your ability to identify patterns, establish correlations between different numbers, and analyze the insights that are coming out of these trends and patterns. And I'll give you an example. If I tell you that the marketing budget of a company is $5 million, in isolation, you are not able to interpret anything out of this. But if I tell you that the marketing budget of $5 million is actually 5% of your sales is $100 million and your marketing budget is 5% of sales. Now you have some comparison. Now you have some correlation. Okay. Now what you do, now I'll give you one more insight or I'll give you one more information saying that current year marketing spends, which is 5% of sales, is higher than the last 3 years average of 3% of sales, which means last 3 years, we have spent only 3% of sales as marketing, but this year we have spent 5% of sales as marketing. Now you have analyzed this number of marketing spend, and now you are empowered to ask the right questions to the marketing director, to the CEO and senior business leaders in the company that, hey, this year we spent 2% extra. Is it a one-time thing? Is it a recurring thing? Are we redefining our marketing budgets, right? Now, this is how your analytical skills come to play. your ability to understand various correlations between different set of numbers, that is what is your analytical skill. Then comes your cross-function relationships. Finance is not an isolated function. Every now and then, you will either be interacting with the business teams to collect some data from them or provide certain reports and insights to them, right? And in both cases, you require strong relationships with these business teams. Otherwise, you will not get the data on time and you will not be able to convince about your decision or the financial decision that your business counterpart is supposed to take, right? That's why strong cross-functional relationships are absolutely important. IT and data literacy. IT in the sense technology. It could be Excel, any tools, Power BI, Tableau, whatever basic technology you are using in your FP&A roles. Okay. Data literacy is again understanding basic data relationships like mean, median, mode, averages, correlations, trends, patterns, regression analysis, or correlations. All of these things are your data literacy. This is a basic data literacy that is expected from you. Okay. So these are the 4 core skill sets that are required for you to be successful at FP&A roles. Now, how does a typical FP&A month look like, right? Does the FP&A team do budgeting and forecasting throughout the year? No. So how does a typical month look like? How does week 1 to 4 look like? I'll let Asif cover this quickly so that we can understand how a typical FP&A month looks like.
Yeah. So before we look at the FP&A calendar, I'll just quickly give you some context behind this. So this is based on a survey we did for 20 different companies. Now, all these companies were from different industries, from different backgrounds. Some were big companies, some were small companies. So consider this as an average FP&A calendar. So it could happen that you are working in FP&A and you might see certain items which are mentioned here in week 1 happening in week 2, or certain items mentioned here in week 2 which is happening in week 1. So keep in mind that this is a average FP&A calendar. It is not a rule or a standard or a law. So make sure that you understand that it is an average based on a survey we did with more than 20 companies. So that is the first disclaimer I wanted to give you. Second one is that this is based on your calendar month. So week 1 meaning it is the first 7 days of the calendar month. So it is, for example, the first of the month to the 7th of the month. Week 2 would be the 8th of the month to the 15th of the month, and so on and so forth. So that is how you read the calendar. So first of all, it is average of companies from different backgrounds, and second is it is a monthly calendar. So those are the 2 things that you need to bear in mind while you read this calendar. Okay. So now with that context and background in mind, we'll start looking at the week 1 of the typical FP&A month. Okay. What happens typically in most organizations is that the accounting team, which is a separate team in the company, apart from the FP&A team, they would usually close the books of accounts by anywhere between the 3rd or the 7th of the month. So that is typically what happens in most organizations. Again, it could differ depending on the different size and different maturity of the organization, but 2nd to 7th is an average where the books of accounts are closed. Now, the senior management or the leadership team or the CEO will not be waiting till the 7th of the month to know what has been the performance of the previous month. So right now we are in week 1 of, say, for example, June is the next month. Say if we are in the first week of June, the CEO may not want to wait till the 7th of June to know what the performance of May month was. So they may want to know at least an estimate of the May performance in this example as early as possible, and sometimes even as the month ends, or even on the 31st of the month or the 1st of the next month. That is where the flash reports comes in. So what the flash report does is it bridges the gap between your month end reports. Usually it helps give the senior management an estimate of how the month closes before even the books of accounts are closed. That is the first objective of flash reports. And the second objective is that it bridges the month end reporting. So usually when you do monthly reports, flash reports can help you bridge the gap between the month end reports, meaning you could create a weekly or daily flash report so that you can keep the seniors or keep the stakeholders updated on a more frequent basis compared to a monthly update that you give in your month end report. Okay, so that is the objective of the flash report. Now, once the books of accounts are closed, which is anywhere between the 2nd or the 3rd or the 7th of the month that we talked about, then you would review the closed books of accounts with your accounting team. understand what has been the difference between the flash numbers that you had reported last week or maybe a few days back and the actual numbers which were closed. In most cases, if you are doing this on a continuous basis or a monthly basis, you would know majority of the differences or majority of the reasons why there is a difference between the flash and the actual. But if in case there's a new material item, you may want to just make a note of that. So flash reporting is done, closed by the accounting team. You've done the review with the accounting team. You understood what is the difference between the actuals and the flash that you've reported. Now you have the numbers or the actual numbers to be able to prepare the month-end reports. And these are reports that you prepare for different business units, for different functions in the company. For example, you might be creating a sales report, you might be creating a headcount report, you might be creating a marketing report, which is going to be consumed or used by different parts or the different business units or the different functional teams in the company. Okay, so that is how typically the week one of FP&A looks like in majority of the companies. So week one was all about closing the books or helping the accounting team close the books and doing the reporting and the flash reports. Now, when you move to week two, it is more on the forecasting side. So what you do in week two is simply you pick up the last available forecast, and again we usually discuss this in the program masterclass in the CDFA. So you pick up the last available forecast and then you start updating that forecast for the next cycle. Okay. So you pick up the last forecast, you start updating it yourself, you get it reviewed, or you take input from the business teams, you get it reviewed from the CFO, you get it reviewed from the business heads. And then once everybody is happy with the new version of the forecast, then you freeze that or lock that forecast version and then you upload it into the FP&A tool or the budgeting tool. Or if you're doing this in Excel, you just say, okay, this is my next version of the forecast or the next forecast that I will be using to track my actuals against in the next month. So that is typically how the week two looks like, which is usually based on updating the forecast. And then also you may have a quarterly review meeting. So the report that you had shared in the previous week, it's not only that you just send the reports, you may also have to meet the business teams and explain them or present those reports to them and make them understand what is happening in their part of the department or in their business unit. Okay. So week two is more about forecasting. Week three is, so now you're done with reporting, you're done with forecasting. Week three is more or less the ad hoc week where you do all the other activities which you couldn't do in week one and week two. So some of the things that teams do is they do profitability analysis. There's some analysis that is value adding analysis, but they did not get the time to do it in week one, week two. Ad hoc projects, special projects. Usually, many teams are working on one or two important projects on an ongoing basis, so they may just get more time to devote to those projects in the weekly. A lot of teams spend time on automation. A lot of teams spend time on making sure that their processes are improved and they could do the same thing that they did last month in a much more efficient and a faster way. So that is what typically happens in weekly. And the final point there that you see is you keep a check on the forecast that you had submitted in week two. So it's not that you submit the forecast and you forget about it. You have to keep an eye on any material items which could be a risk or an opportunity to your forecast number that you had submitted in the previous month, so that you could keep your stakeholders updated if there is anything material that they need to be aware of from the forecast that you had submitted. So that is how typically the week three looks like. And there are other items like working capital management, recharges and allocations. I'll not get into the details of it, but we do cover all of this in the CDFP programs in much detail. Week four is preparation for week one. So it is the last week of the month, and then you again start preparing for the next monthly cycle. So this is where you start working on the forecast. Sorry, you start working on the flash reports that you saw in the week one. So typically you start doing the flash reports at the end of the month, and then you continue doing that till the books of accounts are closed in the week one of the next month. You help the accounting teams in closure. Since you are more close to the business teams, they may require your help, or you may want to proactively help them to answer any questions that they may have while they are closing the books or while they are passing entries or while they are passing the closing entries. Okay, so this is how typically the week four looks like. And then again the cycle continues, which is week one, week two, week three, week four. The only thing that which is missing here is the annual budgeting process, which is a separate calendar, and we cover that as a separate webinar also. So except the budgeting or the annual operating plan or the budget process, you see most of the daily or the weekly or the monthly items covered in this in the calendar. So that is how the FP&A calendar looks like. I'll take a pause and see if there are questions. If not, we'll go back and continue the webinar.
Amazing, Asif. Thank you so much for that. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. We'll take all the questions in the end. I hope you now got a kind of glimpse of how does it feel like to work in the FP&A function. What are some of the core activities? What we'll end up doing in week 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right. So here's a quick class discussion, and I want you to think about these things and then type your responses in the chat box. Here's the scenario. You have just joined as FP&A manager in a new company 2 days ago. What are your thoughts on how will you approach your job and what steps will you take to understand your role better? Just don't overthink this. Don't Google or ChatGPT this. Just go by your instinct. Just type whatever response comes to your mind. Type it in the chat box. How will you take control of your role? So you're a new FP&A manager. What all things will you check? What all things will you try and understand? First, understand the business model. Excellent. Understand how the company is making money. Is it a case based? Is it subscription based? What is the kind of revenue model, business model that they have? Ask for any SOPs. Okay, SOPs, calendars, checklists, schedules, all of these things you will ask for. Understand the business, the way income is recognized, revenue recognition policies, expense management policies, all of those things. Understand the business as a whole. That's right. Check historical reports. Yes, historical reports, financial reports, management presentations, budgets, forecasts, last year reports, last quarter management reports, all of those things you can check. Be close to the management, especially with the CFO. Yes, try and build relationship with the management, with the cross-functional teams, with various senior leaders in the company, including the CFO. Ask the problem before on the company. So yeah, I wouldn't get into the problem within the first couple of weeks, because nobody expects you to be a solution hero in the first few weeks. So I would rather understand the business first completely and then look for solutions. Partnering with other departments, establishing relationships, understanding who are your key stakeholders, right? All of these things are important. Understanding about the teams, right. Cool. So all of you are thinking on the right lines and all of these are right answers. Okay. Let me give you a quick framework of the 3 most critical things that you need to look at when you join an FP&A role. Okay. And it's connected to what you guys mentioned. So I like to call it FP&A success mantra. So there are 3 things that you need to focus on. One is organization structure and where you fit into the organization structure. What is that soft power that you hold in the organization structure? And then stakeholders. Who are your primary stakeholders? Who are you working with? And then industry KPIs. Every industry operates with a different set of KPIs. You will need to understand the specific KPIs that are relevant for your industry. So let's spend about a minute or 2 on each of them. In terms of organization structure, there could be 4 possibilities. One, you could be in a regional setup. North, West, South, East. You could be FP&A manager North. You could be FP&A manager APAC, FP&A manager Middle East, whatever is the region that your company is following. You could be within a business unit, strategic business unit. Okay, let's say there are 5 different business units. You could be FP&A manager, business unit 1, FP&A manager, business unit 2, as the case might be. Yeah. You could be part of a global shared services or a center of excellence. Many times in economies like India, Philippines, there are certain centers of excellence or global shared services that are set up. So you could be part of these shared services in the FP&A role, where you are handling budgeting, forecasting, everything, and your stakeholder is actually sitting in different country. Yeah. Alternatively, you could be part of the on-ground team in the US, UK, or wherever, and your team of FA analysts is actually sitting in the shared services and you are managing and getting work done from them in terms of all your reports. Yeah. Then the other part is the project-based or a client-based thing. Now, imagine an architecture firm or a software company or an advertising firm. All of these things either operate on a project basis or a client basis, where you're either handling a certain project or a cluster of projects or a client or a cluster of clients, and then looking at the finance and FP&A for those set of clients or projects, right? You could be in any one of these roles. Now, depending on which role you are in, that will determine who are your stakeholders and what is the kind of soft power that you hold in the organization. Okay. And no matter which role you are into, you will definitely be interacting with various set of stakeholders. Understand who are your top 5 stakeholders. Is it sales, business development, HR, legal, operations, production, supply chain? There could be a number of different organizations in the company, functions in the company. Understand who has what kind of an influence on your team or on your work. And you will always be collecting a lot of inputs and updates and providing a lot of reports and insights to these various cross-functional teams. I've done a number of initiatives with sales teams on pricing, business development, bidding to a certain client. I've done a number of initiatives with HR on optimizing the recruitment costs. I've done programs with HR on looking at and studying the attrition cost and its impact in the company. So all of these are different kind of projects that you will be undertaking. And then comes your KPIs. Again, in the interest of time, let me cover this quickly. So in every company has a different set of KPIs. In oil and gas company, you would be looking at something like a gross refining margin, which is basically your sales price minus your cost of crude oil being the most important raw material for an oil and gas refining company. Gross margins is basically your sales minus all of your cost of goods sold. Net margins, that's your gross margin minus discounts. So these are some of the KPIs that are typical of an oil and gas company. In a software company, it's a people-based business. People are your biggest cost. So compensation or salary ratio is something which you will look at in a software company. Revenue per headcount, revenue per compensation per headcount. How much revenue are you generating for every dollar invested on your employees? So that is what you will be looking at in a software company. In a SaaS company, you will be looking at stuff like annual recurring revenue or cost of customer acquisition, churn rate, number of net new subscribers. All of these things are in a SaaS company, which is a software as a service kind of a company, which is more like a subscription-based model. So I hope you get the point here that it's not about these specific KPIs. What I'm trying to understand or help you understand is that you need to look at your specific industry and what are some of the core KPIs that industry follows. Okay, that is what you will need to start understanding and how those KPIs are impacting your business. So these three things, that is organization structure and where you fit into the organization structure. Second one is the stakeholders and the relationships that you need to build with them. And third is KPIs, which are specific to your industry. If you get a command over these three things in the first few weeks of your FP&A role, then it's going to be easier and you'll be having a smooth run in your role as well. Cool. So what is a quick framework to build your career? So again, if you just take I would like to give an analogy of building a house, right? So if you have to build a strong house, so what do? The first thing that you need is your foundation. That is where your conceptual understanding of your FP&A comes into play. It is all about your basic understanding like budgeting, forecasting, what are gross margins, what is top line. All of these things are important in terms of your foundational understanding. And top of these foundational understanding, you need three pillars. Soft skills, that is your ability to communicate seamlessly with business teams. Experience of that specific industry, especially when you start working in the finance function of a certain specific industry for a long period of time, you develop certain expertise about that industry or that sector. Yeah. Tools, it could be any tools the company is using, could be the ERP, could be the EPM tools or Power BI or Tableau or whatever tools the company is using. There's no one tool that is applicable for all the companies, right? You have to look at the tools that the company is using and then put that effort to learn that tool. If a company is using a tool like Anaplan, put effort to learn Anaplan. If the company is using Excel, Power BI, learn Power BI, And then on top of this would be that you will have to focus on continuous improvements. And then at some point in time, you'll have to transition to lead a team of analysts, lead a team of FP&A staff, and then keep adapting yourself to the newer business models and technological changes that are happening in the field, right? So that's your simple, framework on how do you build your career. I get asked this question at least a dozen times a day, that how do I start on my career? This is your framework. Start with conceptual understanding, focus on the three pillars: soft skills, experience, and tools, and then keep improving from there, right? So this is a quick framework for FP&A, building your career. Okay. Now that you have some understanding of what is FP&A, how does an FP&A role look like, and how do you build your FP&A career? Now imagine how amazing it would be that if you know all the high-paying skills in FP&A, right? Earlier, remember I told you that FP&A roles command on an average more than 15 to 30% higher salary compared to finance and accounting roles, right? It would be amazing to grab such an opportunity in the FP&A role. So what we have done is we have spoken to dozens of CFOs and identified 5 critical skill sets that CFOs and finance leaders are looking for in their team. So what are these 5 skill sets? One is core FP&A concepts: budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, variance analysis, profitability analysis. All of these things are your core FP&A concepts. So financial modeling is your revenue model, your business model, sensitivity analysis, scenario planning. All of these things come under the financial modeling umbrella. Then comes data storytelling. It's not only important to analyze the data, how are you communicating this data with the business team? So they don't understand 10,000 lines of Excel sheets. So how effectively can you communicate your data story and the insight that you want to communicate to the business team? Then comes business partnering, building relationships, business acumen, coaching business teams on taking prudent financial decisions. All of these things come under business partnering. And then, of course, leveraging technology and AI developments in your finance role. So these are the 5 core skill sets that FP&A teams are, or rather CFOs and finance leaders are looking for in their finance teams, in their finance professions. Okay. Now, what we have done is at FPI, we have built a comprehensive program. It's called Certified Global FP&A Professional Program. Now, this is the global FP&A certification built directly and delivered by built and delivered directly by CFOs and FP&A leaders. It has 10 comprehensive modules, which we'll talk about it in a minute, all through experiential sessions, case studies and practical simulations, role plays. Right? MBS, they give you a lot of pre-reading. You need to prepare that and come to the classroom. We focus the quality time in the classroom to discuss any case studies and situations that you might be going through. Be part of a global alumni network, more than 25. Students from more than 25 countries have taken the CGFPA program so far. You get sessions with a personalized career coach, placement support, not a guarantee, but a support in terms of reviewing your resume, building your LinkedIn profile, being part of the FPI alumni community where we keep sharing jobs on a regular basis. On an average, we end up sharing at least 3 to 4 jobs a week, right? So that's how we try and support our students to help them get placed in different kind of companies. Monthly Q&A sessions directly with the faculty or the coaches that are teaching you or training you in the CGFPA program. External speaker sessions, CFO, tool providers, technology leaders, transformation experts, all of those people come on the platform one every month so that you get the latest knowledge that's happening in the finance and accounting field. And all of this through a seamless access of the best-in-class learning management system that we have online and through our regular meetings that we do online, right? So again, a comprehensive program. It has 10 exhaustive modules. I'll let Asif cover the first 5 modules that you see on the on the left, and then I'll cover the other module.
Sure. So I'll talk about the core modules, which is budgeting, forecasting, reporting, financial modeling, and recently added AI for finance and FP&A. So let me talk about those first. So budgeting, forecasting, as some of you already noticed that we did not cover the budgeting calendar today. So budgeting is a separate exercise altogether, where we look at the entire annual operating plan process, which is a separate 2 to 3 month process in most companies. In the program, we cover the entire process using examples, case studies. We teach different budgeting methods, including the top-down, bottoms-up, incremental, zero-based. We do this through different case studies and simulations. There's a capstone project where you have to work through preparing a budget of an organization and then present it to as if you're presenting to your CFO. So that is a little bit about the budgeting forecasting module. Management reporting. Again, we saw some glimpses of it in the FP&A calendar. So you looked at the month-end reports, you looked at the flash reports. So we take examples of flash reports, we take examples of month-end reports, and then ask you to prepare those reports step by step. And apart from that, there are topics on variance analysis, profitability analysis, performance management framework is an important part where we cover frameworks like balance scorecards, KPIs, OKRs. So that is a little glimpse of the management reporting module. And the financial modeling is very specific to use cases. So we cover FP&A specific examples, use cases, which are preparing revenue models, doing the basic three-statement financial model, which is income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement, being able to do scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, being able to do cash flow forecasting, being able to do capital budgeting and capital budgeting models. So that is a little bit on the financial modeling module. AI, as I mentioned, is a new module we added very recently, maybe 6 8 months back, and where we cover tools like AI tools like Copilot, ChatGPT, and how you could leverage those tools to speed up your work, become more productive, and do the same things that you used to do using Excel or manual processes in a way that is much more productive and much more faster. So that is a little bit about the core modules, and then I will cover the modules that are there on the right side. So there is a raise hand, so we'll come to the questions very soon. Maybe in the next 5 minutes, we're about to close our presentation. We'll take all the questions one by one in the next maybe 5 minutes.
Thanks, Asif. About the modules on the right, so you have data analytics, which is you will invariably end up dealing with a lot of data, which could be financial data, operational data, and you need to know your way to navigate through this data. So that's where we cover the basics of Power BI, SQL, all other tools, so that you are able to navigate through these large chunks of data. Okay. Do we claim to make you a Power BI expert? No, but at least we take you to a level where you are comfortable using these tools on a regular basis in your role. Then comes financial analysis, variance analysis, profitability analysis, horizontal analysis, vertical analysis, all these different kind of analysis, which company or the CFO looks at from an internal standpoint. That is more important, right? Of course, all of you might be knowing ratio analysis, debt equity ratio, performance ratios, operational ratios. You know definitely all of that. But what does a CFO look at from a financial analysis standpoint? That's what is covered in the financial analysis module. And then storytelling and presentation, best practices on storytelling, frameworks on best practice on presentations. How do you communicate your story? How do you communicate the right set of insights to your business teams That is what is important from a storytelling perspective. And then comes your strategy. No strategic decision in the company is complete without sound financial analysis. Can you take a decision to open a new market or enter a new geography without sound financial analysis? That's not possible, right? So every strategic decision has some or the other interconnection or overlap with the FP&A role. We look at all those popular strategic frameworks and how they're interconnected with our roles. And then comes your business partnering, building strong cross-functional relationships, partnering with the businesses, right? Business acumen, all of those things are covered in the business partnering module. So all in all, 10 solid modules that you require. Nearly everything that you require for your FP&A role is covered in the CGFPA module. So don't think about CGFPA as just some course that you will be doing. It's a fast track 2 decades of experience compressed into 6 months. So that's how Asif and I have built this program, and we have to try to bring the best experts in every field available out there in the program. Cool. So what is the eligibility for the CGFPA program, right? So you need to have a bachelor's degree or an equivalent in finance, accounting, or business, or you may have any of these qualifications like CA, CPA, CMA, ACCA, right? We don't claim to be a substitute for your primary qualifications. In fact, what these qualifications like CA, CPA, CMA are not covering, they are not covering FP&A. They're not focused on FP&A. They are more accounting qualifications to get you an entry-level job, right? So that's what we are trying to plug through the CGFPA program. We are accredited by CPD UK. So you are able to claim all those credits in your respective accounting qualifications as well. Once you are enrolled into the CGFPA program, you need to do 2 things to be eligible for the final examination. One is attend the online classes live, at least 50% of them. We meet once every Saturday for 2-hour classes live. Okay. And the timings are Saturday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. That's when we meet for 2 hours live classes. And you need to attend at least 50% of the classes live. And then submit a capstone project where we'll give you guidance on how to do that. You need to submit that capstone project, which will be a budget presentation to the CFO. And once you prepare that and submit it, you will be eligible for the final examination. And once you give the final examination, which is a 2-hour, 100-mark, 50 questions, multiple choice questions examination, once you complete that examination, you will be awarded the CGFPA certificate from FP&A Professionals Institute. We are a private body at this point in time. We are not accredited to any government institutions. Although in the background, we are trying to work and get as many accreditations as possible so that our students can get recognition in certain universities or any employers that they're looking for. But as of now, we are just accredited by CPD UK at this point in time. The ROI for a course like this, I leave it to your imagination. This can easily fast track your career by a few years. All of these topics that we just shared with you, it took us decades for us to probably learn these topics, but I leave the ROI of this course to your imagination. The course fee investment is USD 1595. There is also an option to pay it in 5 installments. It's a 6-month course. Every Saturday, we meet live for 2 hours. Apart from that, about 60 to 90 minutes of your own time involvement is required for you to do the pre-reading, the case study, and everything that we share for you to prepare and come to the classroom. Because in the classroom, we don't want to spend time on basics. We want to equip you with advanced stuff. We want to equip you with relevant case studies, discussions, and all the simulations that we have planned to do. So we meet every Saturday live for 2 hours, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. The orientation for the current cohort, which is CGFPA 5, is starting on 7th of June 2025, and the classes are starting on 28th of June 2025. Okay, so the orientation is happening on 7th of June 2025. The date that you need to remember is 5th of June 2025, when the 3rd round of applications are closing. Already 2 rounds of applications have closed. We've evaluated those applications. So 3rd round of applications will close on 5th of June 2025. Whether you decide to do the CGFPA program or no, just make sure that you at least fill in the application so that you are in the consideration. The team will look at your eligibility, they look at your application, and then come back to you with an offer, whatever is going on at that point in time. Okay, so make sure that you complete your applications before 5th of June 2025. The application and the brochure links will be there in the chat box. Asif will share them in the chat box. Make sure that you are completing your applications right away. It will only take a couple of minutes for you to do it. Don't just take our word for it. There are tons and tons of testimonials that are in front of you. All of them have completed the CGFPA program. Many of them have been able to transition to FP&A roles. Many of them, we get feedbacks every day that, hey, I learned this in the program and I was able to actually implement that in my work. I implemented this framework in my work, or I implemented this strategy thing that I learned in my class. All of these things, we keep getting stories every day. And, today, Asif and I have, are already out of our CFO and FP&A jobs, right? So training is something which is our passion. When our students come back and share their success stories, that gives us the maximum pleasure at this point in time. So reach out to any of our alumni and they'll tell you how the course has been for them. Okay. So the date that you need to remember is 5th June 2025. Complete your applications and our team will reach out to you with the offer that's going on at that point in time. All the very best for your careers. Hopefully we'll meet you in one of our programs. Thank you.
We should certainly.
Okay, yeah. So let me just quickly share the link where you can book a call with us, and we would be happy to give you some one-on-one guidance as to what is right for you. I'm going to share mine. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. All the best.
Thank you. Bye.